All right, these are the 6.10 notes. We're going to be graphing sine and cosine. So for the steps, the first thing you need to do is find all the information. You need the amplitude, which is A, the period, which is 2 pi over B, the midline, which is C, and then the minimum and the maximum. And the minimum can be found by doing the midline minus the amplitude. We've done that on another note page. And the max is the midline plus the amplitude. After you find all that information, you're going to label the axes. All right, so for problem number 1, we have y equals 4 sine of x. Let's find all of our information. Our amplitude is 4. Period is 2 pi divided by the letter b, which in this case is 1. That'll give us an answer of 2 pi. Our midline is 1. And then our minimum and maximum, we're going to take our midline and add 4 to it and subtract 4 to it. So 1 minus 4 is negative 3. 1 plus 4 is 5. Then on delta math, it asks you to label the axes. So on the left-hand side, it gives you a little box like this. You want to put a 1 in there as long as you want to count by ones. When you put a 1 in there, it populates it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up, and does the same thing with the bottom. If you need to go by a different number, if your max and min are too large, you can count by 2s. Then down at the bottom, it gives you a x-axis, and you want to put in here the period, whatever the period is. So you type in 2 pi. Then you want to take that, and it'll give you a little dot right here, and you want to scroll it all the way over until the 4th line. So 1, 2, 3, 4, scroll it over to right here, and then it'll label it as a 2 pi. From there, you can graph sine. You have your midline here at 1. Sine graphs start on the midline, so to the middle, and then they go up to the maximum, so 5, back to the middle, down to the minimum, and back to the midline. For example number 2, we have y equals 2 cosine of 1/2. Amplitude will be 2. Period, we have to do a little bit differently. We have to do 2 pi divided by 1/2 since you have a fraction. Then we'll flip the second fraction and multiply, giving us an answer of 4 pi. The midline is 0, which makes the minimum and the maximum pretty easy. The minimum, 2 below 0, negative 2, and the maximum, 2 above 0, positive 2. So again, because the max and the min are just positive 2 and negative 2, you can count by ones here. 0, 1, 2. And then the period you'll write as 4 pi, and you'll take it out to the 4th line. You can draw your midline on, although delta math doesn't allow you to draw the midline, so you'll just have to envision it. And cosine graphs start up at the top, so we'll start at the maximum, 2, go to the midline, 0, all the way down to the minimum, negative 2, back to the middle, and all the way back up to the maximum. You can get a shape that looks like that. All right, we're going to skip example number 2, or technically example number 3, and we're going to move on to the back side. Problem number 4. If you see a negative in front, you want to bring it over, and that's going to tell you that you need to flip the graph. So a regular sine graph, I'll just draw out a couple graphs for you so you can see it. A regular sine graph we'll start in the middle and then go up, middle, bottom, middle. It'll look something like that. That's sine. And then a cosine graph looks like this. But when you make it a negative, it's actually going to flip the graph. So your sine is going to dip down first, That'd be a negative sign. And your cosine is going to start at the bottom. And it'll look something like that. That'd be a negative cosine. So everything else stays the same. You want the amplitude to be that positive 3. The negative is separate. The period, again, 2 pi divided by 1/2. Flip the second fraction, multiply, 4 pi. Midline is going to be 2. The minimum and the maximum always count from 2. 3 up would make 5. 3 down would make -1. Then we label our axes. The little box on delta math, you're going to put a 1 right there. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the highest my graph is going to go, and -1 will be the lowest it goes. Then the period, 4 pi, and you'll take the dot and drag it all the way over to the 4th line. If you want to draw the midline, you can. It's going to be right there at the 2. And a negative sign. Remember the pattern: middle, bottom, middle, top, and back to the middle. And there's your negative sign graph. All right, for example number 5, we're actually going to change this +7 to a +8. Amplitude's going to be 2. Period, 2 pi divided by 1, just 2 pi. Midline is going to be y equals 8. Minimum, maximum. Minimum is going to be 6, maximum is going to be 10. And then because I don't have enough spots to go all the way up to 10, I'm going to go ahead and count by 2. So in the little box, you put a 2, and then it auto-populates counting by 2s. Over here, period is 2 pi, and you put a little dot and drag it all the way over to the 4th line, 2 pi. Our midline is at 8. And this is a cosine graph, so it's going to start above. The maximum value is 10, so my first dot goes at 10, then 8, then 6, then 8, and then 10. We are also going to skip example 6. So hopefully those 4 problems helped you enough. If you have any questions, let me know.